Welcome back to Hometown Conversations, everybody. My name is Roman. I'm joined by my co-host Jill, as always. And yes, that is new music you're hearing on the intro. So I'm feeling pretty special about that today. A little longer on that. How many times did we try to hit record on this episode, Jill?
I think we're up to 17 or 4.
Yeah, I don't know. We're somewhere in between. So today we're joined with Andrea Moore. Joined by Andrea Moore, with Andrea Moore.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We're with her and joined by her.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Yeah. Andrea is the, you work with TigerPath over at the school. So we're going to talk a little bit about TigerPath. But before we do that, we want to talk about some other things. So, everything's going pretty good, Jill?
Yeah, everything's good. I mean, given that it's like we're halfway through May and we've barely seen sun or warm weather, but whatever. Yeah. I assume it's coming.
Yeah, it's tough right now, right? So I know we talk a lot about the weather in Minnesota. Now, we did have a little bumpy night last night, which was fun.
Yeah. Did you stay safe, Andrea? You're
Yes,
out on
I
a farm, right?
Well, we live in town, but we do farm.
Okay.
So my husband got trapped at Runnings because, that's what you do during a tornado warning. You go to Runnings.
Absolutely.
Don't you?
You shop if you're a male.
I guess. But I was in the basement.
Yeah.
Well, we went straight from winter, I think, into summer this year. It was last week, maybe Monday even. It was like 50 degrees here, and now it's, 80 and like hot. Humid is the right word for it. You almost have a sweater on. I've got long sleeve shirts on here, and I'm dying
holes
here.
In it.
Yeah, well, you're very holy.
Sweater.
Yeah, very holy.
But I think everybody's ready for summer, right? That's kind of where we're at. We're all ready to go jump in a lake, do that kind of stuff again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our kids are definitely ready, right? I mean, our 2 youngest like school, especially the youngest. But this summer is going to look a little bit different, right? The oldest is driving and has a couple of jobs. The 14-year-old is ready to get a job the second they let school out. So thank goodness for businesses in town that hire 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
10-year-old obviously can't work, but he's signed up for all sorts of sports camps and things to try to keep
them busy.
Yeah. Summer can get long, but if you stay a little structured, it
does feel like it won't be that long. We don't get that long in summer here. It's like it felt like the 45-month winter that we just came out of, and now we're going into 2 months of summer. And then it will be over and we'll be back to school again. So we try not to talk about going back to school right after school is letting out. So we're trying to let that kind
Andrea,
of simmer.
do the high schoolers get pretty antsy to be done?
Yeah, and I think it really, like you said, this year, it didn't even feel like there was spring. And so, I think, they're used to being able, well, we all are used to being able to be outside more, leading up to this. And that just didn't happen much this year.
No, it
Gotta
really
get
didn't.
the wiggles out.
Yeah.
Exactly how high schoolers refer to
The
it.
wiggles.
The wiggles.
I'm sure that's exactly how they refer
New
to it.
terminology.
So we did go out to supper last night. And I was telling somebody the other day, or earlier this morning, I was like, I was a little stressed last night driving home from the restaurant when we were coming home. Went to Squeaky's, ate some food there, and I was kept looking at the sky, and it was turning greenish. And I'm like, I feel like we need to get moving. But I wasn't driving. Our 16-year-old was driving.
And where were we?
In the back seat.
Yeah, because the 10-year-old...
We did ask if we could make out in the back seat. It was very specific. No. From both boys.
But the
That
10-year-old
just go through my mind.
Yeah, the 10-year-old called shotgun. I mean, so you got to honor shotgun, right? So the kids were in the front and Roman and I were in the back seat. This is a whole new era.
There was a lot of space in the back seat too.
Yeah.
I noticed of that car, which I'm going to have a conversation about. So
You don't want to give ideas, but you also want to set parameters.
Parameters is a very specific thing that we're talking about here. So, but it's kind of fun to watch them grow up, change, that kind of stuff. Is it fun from, working in the school standpoint when you see these kids kind of come through? I'm sure you've seen them all these seniors that are graduating this year. I'm sure you saw them when they were a lot younger. And now you're seeing them grow up. It feels like time goes fast, right?
Yes, it makes me feel old. But
you're not. I promise. You're just not.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
No.
It is so fun to just watch them, each kind of become themselves and like they're, hopefully as they're reaching towards their best version of themselves and figuring out what they're good at and what they like and just like kind of their next step and their place in the world. And it's, not that I don't have that figured out yet. And I'm,
we're all
over
figuring
50.
that out still.
Right. But it's fun to watch the process and just kind of watch how much they've matured and learned about themselves, really.
Yeah.
What a unique sort of profession. I've never really thought about it, honestly, until being around our kids. How how unique of a situation being a high school educator or working in the high school system is.
Right.
These kids are on such a cusp of something brand new. And as grown adults, we know it's going to go piece by piece. They don't have to have the whole world figured out. But for them, it's really monumental to graduate from high school. And so to be able to be a part of that with them that's got to be cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, I taught for 12 years, so I miss that day-to-day interaction with like all the same kids and really getting to know them. But I really love this role as well because like I always get to be good cop. I never have to be bad cop in my role, really.
Right.
Yeah.
They come to me or I talk to kids when, they want something specific. They want to explore a career. They want to know what jobs are out there. And usually I can help them at least with one step. So that's really fun. Although I do miss being in the classroom, like day to day.
What did you teach?
I taught history, government, social
nice.
studies. Woohoo!
Yeah. Woohoo is right.
That's my favorite. Yeah.
I didn't really
Awesome.
get into history until I got out
Roman.
of school.
Okay.
Until I got out
All
of
right.
school.
You just redeemed
you
yourself.
just got scolded
that
by
was
the
close.
teacher.
I know.
Yeah.
It's shocker.
Detention.
Shocker. Well, okay, fine. We can do detention. It's fine. As long as Jill gets to come along.
I gotta get in trouble now. I never got in trouble. I don't know how to get
Are
detention.
you sure?
Maybe.
I'm going to talk to
Maybe.
your mom about that. Just see what kind of trouble you didn't get into when you were in school. Okay,
Go
so
ahead
she's
and
going to
ask her.
You
continue
update
to.
me on that when you find out. Right?
I will. I will. I'll keep you updated. So you kind of led into an interesting thing that we want to talk about today, which is TigerPath. And I think that there is, in some respects, like everybody that kind of works in the school understands it, what we're doing. I think sometimes as parents, we look at it and say, what is that exactly? What is it meant to do as an 8th grader? What do you mean I'm picking out classes of what I want to do when I grow up and all this kind of stuff? So there's a lot that sort of unpack there. At the same time, I know that we've had conversations in the past, both at the chamber and some other places, about just what type of jobs are needed and what kind of schooling goes into that. So that, I think, plays a role into this too. So as we get started in this today, talk to us about what is TigerPath and from a layman's standpoint, 30,000 foot view type of thing.
That's a great question, and lots of different answers. But
I'm sure.
Depending on who you ask, but really, TigerPath isn't TigerPath. In essence, is nothing different than what teachers and school administration has been doing forever,
Right.
trying to help kids explore careers in a logical way. But kind of this pathways movement is really gaining steam across the state and really the nation. And so I always say there are two aspects to TigerPath. One is just what you were talking about, Roman, that kids choose classes in 8th grade, yes, a path to explore, not a career.
Right.
A career path to explore. And of course, they have to take, every student that graduates from a high school in Minnesota has to take certain English, math, social studies, science, art, phy-ed classes to graduate. But then they have these classes called electives, which we probably all took. And so when I chose for my electives, I had no idea what to choose. There's a huge list, like, I don't know, maybe 100. And I don't think I'm exaggerating. Electives that you could take, from, we called it home ec back then, and industrial ed and things like that. But, and I just, it was fun to explore different ones, but I really had no clue what to take. So that is one aspect of TigerPath where they group the electives in these logical ways to help explore certain career paths. So for example, if you're in the stream TigerPath, the electives that you see that you may choose from as a student would be like welding, electricity and electronics, machine tool, etc. You're not going to see child development. That would be in the human services TigerPath. But you may take an elective outside of your TigerPath.
Of course.
Like what if you want to be a welding teacher?
Absolutely.
And you take welding and child development
Great
or
point.
psychology.
Yep.
So, and then the other aspect of TigerPath is really more like what I do. And that's the simplest explanation is I help kids explore careers.
Yeah.
And what that looks like on a daily basis is, connecting with community partners, setting up job shadows, going on field trips, just having conversations with kids. It can look like a whole bunch of different things, but it's really fun.
Yeah.
Now, is this something, Andrea, that happens across the state or across the country, or is this a little bit unique to Hutchinson?
it's not necessarily unique to Hutchinson. I think a lot of schools are doing it. I know when TigerPath started, administration went around to some schools who had already started this kind of pathway programming to get some ideas. And every school that I know of that does it in Minnesota does it a little differently.
Sure.
You know, some people have, they call them gateway classes in 8th grade. And some people have 6 TigerPaths, or well, not tiger paths, but different pathways in their schools. So everybody does it a little bit differently. If you ask me to just sum it up in one word, I would just say it makes career exploration in high school more intentional. It's just intentional.
Yeah, and you've mentioned there are 5. What are the 5?
Well, actually, there's 4, but I want a 5th, but I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Oh, don't talk about 5th.
I love it.
Okay, yeah.
You'll get detention
I
if
know,
you talk
I will,
about it.
Probably. Do my bosses listen to this podcast?
We don't know.
I don't have a list. I don't know.
No,
Tread carefully.
Yeah, I'm kidding. They're awesome. So the 4 Tiger Paths, we have STREAM, which is more kind of the manufacturing, and there's arts in there, graphic design, etc. And then we have Sci-Hi, which is more medical careers, mainly. And then we have business, so for-profit businesses and, you know, accountant, lawyer, etc. And then we have human services, and that's education, law enforcement, social work, nonprofit work, etc.
Yeah. And then also there's a component here where it's not just the school that's working on TigerPath too. Is that correct? Where we've got, you know, businesses and the chamber are all very connected with making this program a success. It
is my favorite. People come to me from other school districts and outside of the state even, and they say, why does it work so well here in Hutchinson? And my answer is the same every time. It's because of the collaboration. And people, you know, we had that consul general from Japan who said, I have traveled all across the Midwest and I've never seen this kind of collaboration between, as you said, like economic development people, business partners, chamber of commerce, you know, community colleges. It's so nice to just get ideas from everyone and just see, you know, what piece of the puzzle they can fit into to help the kids explore careers.
And I think one of the nice things about Hutchinson too, and you hit on it really well, I have seen businesses and people in the community really support the schools, not just teachers, but schools and the kids that are there, and try to see kids be successful. Is part of the program with TigerPath. I know there's this kind of argument, like you have to keep your downtown vibrant and all this kind of stuff, and you got our manufacturers here and they need employees and stuff. Is it part of that too? Is to try and get kids to realize that Hutchinson is a great place to like raise a family and stay?
Right. I mean, obviously it's all about the students. We want them, we're the education piece, so we want them to be successful and we want them to be happy. We want them to follow their passion, you know, find their place in life, like every parent or every educator wants for the students. Now, of course, that would be lovely if that fits with Hutchinson's workforce needs and visions for our community. And many, many times it does. And I do find that a lot, that, you know, students had no idea of some of the opportunities right here in Hutchinson. Like maybe they wanted to do something and they thought they were going to go to the cities and do that. Or what we hear a lot is they go off after maybe college or high school and go to the cities or another state or somewhere and do a job, and then when it's time to have children, they come back to Hutchinson, which is awesome.
It is a really great town to raise a family. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it on the TigerPath side of things, then as kids are getting into it, is it all kids that have to participate or in guidance, so to speak, to get to this point? I just feel like when I was going to school, like, I don't want to throw any guidance counselors under the bus here, but one of the ones that I had was, he really worked with the kids that were super good at school. And then those of us that were just kind of like mediocre and we're like, school. I feel like if we would have had a connection to why the classes are important, not just I have to go to English. Yeah, the relevance of it. I think that, do you find that the teachers really get behind this and push towards that too?
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head. Like just talking to kids about, you know, all their opportunities. It's one thing I really like about TigerPath is that within every Tiger, you know, it's not like, oh, there's this TigerPath for people who for sure want to do a 4-year degree or beyond. marked. That's your Tiger Path. No, that it's not like that at all. In each of the 4 Tiger Paths, there are jobs that you could get straight out of high school, some with on-the-job training, some with a certification, industry recognized, some with a 2-year degree, some with 4, 6, 8-year degree in every single Tiger Path.
Yeah.
And we really try to talk to the kids a lot about that and use data. In this region, the last figure I heard was 17% of our jobs in this region require a 4-year degree. So again, not that I have anything against a 4-year degree. Obviously, we have many professions that need that. I have one, my kids, but just trying to make kind of those matches. And also, I think it's really important to not, if kids do choose a 2-year degree or training or on-the-job training or certificate, it's not because they're not smart.
Right.
They're not settling.
Right.
It's because they have skills and interests related to jobs in that area, and it shouldn't be something that is, looked as lesser than.
Right.
Absolutely. It means 17% only require a 4-year. That's not that many.
No.
Yeah.
I think nationwide it's like 33%.
Sure.
So it's higher nationwide.
And isn't it interesting that kind of feels like before all of, in the last, let's say, 15 years, 20 years, where the conversation has been about how much college costs and this, that, and the other thing, that when you start looking at it, community colleges have stepped up to the plate. Trade schools have stepped up to the plate saying, hey, there's great jobs over here that pay a really good rate too. And you don't need to go to a 4-year school. Now, some you do. And if that's your choice and you want to go to it, but community colleges, and especially in Minnesota, from what I see, have really stepped up to the plate to offer really good opportunities for kids too.
Right. And I know I visited several community colleges as well outside of Hutchinson even. And I know that one gentleman who was teaching auto mechanics, an instructor actually out in South Dakota, said to me, Andrea, and he had this lovely New Zealand accent. So should I try and do it? No, I don't.
Yes, please.
Yes,
I
please,
can't. Mate, when I know that's Australia. Anyway.
They're relatively close.
Yeah, right. When I first started this job, I was just looking for a young man who was, liked to work with his hands and had some technical skill. And he said, now I need the kids from the AP physics class.
Yeah.
Because of how cars have, changed. So this is skilled labor. This isn't something, a lot of it is. And there's a really big need for skilled laborers.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest challenge that faces kids today?
In the career realm?
Yeah. Because I mentioned it to one of my oldest, and I'm like, so what do you want to do when you grow up? And, he knows what he knows. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs that exist, but how do you get that in front of people?
Right. I think probably one of the biggest challenges is that kids do think they have to choose right away. Mm-hmm. And if you talk, most adults I talk to, many aren't doing what they thought they were going to do when they were in high school.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so I think a big challenge is just to let these kids realize, and some of them do already, that you just, put one foot in front of the other. One girl even said to me, none of these people at the career fair are doing what they thought they were going to do in high school. And I thought she was upset by it. And she was like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Mm-hmm. And she said, I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other and let my life unfold in front of me and take opportunities. I'm like, amen, sister. Can you come and be my assistant? Because that's really and to take the opportunities, to go explore, because you never know where it might lead. You might not even know that they did that job at the hospital. You thought you just, nurse or doctor. And then there's this other job that you would just love and be a perfect fit for you.
I think it's important, one of the things as a parent of kids in these real formative years is teaching them about this concept of seizing opportunities, not burning bridges, taking every job you have and working hard at it. I don't care if you're, cleaning the movie theater or working in senior living or at a fast food restaurant or making pizzas, whatever it is, you work hard. Mm-hmm. And then if you decide you want to try something else, you give proper notice.
Right.
You move on to the next thing, right? Everything you do, you work hard and you treat people kindly and respectfully. That's like the base, like in Maslow's hierarchy of job needs, right? That's the base. Right. And then from there, take those opportunities. But you're right. You don't have to know what you're doing at 14, 18, or 30, I don't think.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So within TigerPath, then there's the opportunity. So yes, we give we start in 8th grade, but you can move around and explore and do all that kind of stuff. Because I think there's just a disconnect when people hear TigerPath and I got to sign my kids up for, or my kid has to get signed up for all these classes. I think there's a misconception that they have to stay there.
Right. And that is definitely a misconception. They can change classes. I mean, they can't change a class in the middle of the trimester.
Right.
You know,
Right.
because,
Yeah, right.
but I mean, they can change before each trimester. I think they have about a week to drop classes once the trimester starts. And I haven't actually done the research, but I would imagine that there has not been one single student who has taken every class just as they planned when they were in 8th grade.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody changes for
So
one
it's-
reason or the other.
Yeah. And as kids, you can go ahead and mute that real quick.
I know. How do I?
There we go. You say it's
No
vibrating.
worries.
I'm going to turn it all the way
You know,
off.
what's
That's
funny,
better.
Andrea, as we sit here and we're having this podcast, it is like a staple in this podcast that we have something alert in the background
Yeah.
or a phone goes off or whatever.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, you
thanks.
just fit right in.
just-
Oh,
yeah.
perfect. Don't worry
Always
about
You're
it.
rite of passage. Boom, you're in. You're in the podcast.
No, it'll be
Thank
great because
you.
we'll be listening
Sorry.
back to this and you'll hear it in the car and you'll be like, and you'll be like, what is that? I barely heard that myself through the headphones.
I'm sure we could
So-
turn it into some sort of, just when you think you have everything figured out, something
Your phone
changes and you
rings.
have to adapt and make it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole class I think that could be done on
Right.
that with kids is learning how to adapt in the face of in increased stress or
There you
whatever you
go.
want to call it. So yeah.
Fake it till you make it or something.
right.
Yeah. So how does the school identify with kids or work with kids to say, I understand that this isn't the right spot for you? Do they come to you? Do you guys see that through them when they're like reviewing grades and stuff like that and say, hey, maybe this isn't for you? Or how does that work? Or if at all?
Right. That's a good question. I would say most of the time it's student initiated where they'll come and say, oh, I thought I wanted to be a welder and I took welding and I literally had a kid say, I suck at it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Don't be so hard on yourself. No, I really do. Ask my teacher. I suck at it. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, thank you for your self-awareness and your honesty, So most of the time it is, and maybe they were signed up for welding 2, 3, and 4.
Sure.
So then, obviously they're going to switch some classes and maybe even switch the TigerPath. So yeah, I would say most of the time it's student driven. A lot of the teacher interaction and counselor interaction, is happening in that 8th grade year. And that's something we're really trying more to do is expand into the middle school and even younger to really start talking even more to kids about career exploration. I mean, it was logical that it would start at the high school because they're the most,
ones headed there.
soonest they
Right.
will be out into the workforce. But now that we're kind of getting a few things under our belt, we would like to do more at the middle school. And I was just there this week presenting all morning to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So hopefully that will help as well. Help kids realize what's a good fit.
That's I think it's never too early, right, to start thinking about even if it's not your career per se, what you're good at, what you like, what you enjoy, and what options that would be a good fit for you. Mm-hmm. I know that when I went through, I don't know if either of you are familiar with the Hutchinson Leadership Institute.
It sounds vaguely familiar.
Passively familiar, yeah.
Yeah, they're both on like
Is
the
that
planning
very
committee or
person
something.
Yeah.
with it? Yeah.
But as a almost middle-aged adult, what I learned about myself in that program was amazing, right? And you can, it's never too early or too late to learn about your own learning styles and the way you process information. And part of that course was there were a lot of tools that we used to help narrow down who you are and what your personalities are and
Right.
what you're good at and what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. Do you use tools with these kids to sort of help them
Good question.
narrow down
Yes.
what they...
So they do interest inventories and different things in middle school even. And then as they get into high school, they do that with, different teachers depending on which classes and a lot of within Naviance, there's different tools they can use in there. And then all 9th graders have a careers class and they have a lot of that kind of self-development, self-awareness, kind of know yourself to lead yourself.
Sure.
Lessons in there, whether it's top 20 or I'll go in and teach soft skills, and we'll do activities, some of the same ones we do in Hutch Leadership Institute, actually.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to see how the kids respond. And, my husband, after he went through leadership classes, he's like, man, if I had done this 20 years ago, we would have had a way better marriage. I'm like, do you want to rephrase that? But he's totally right. To know yourself, like you said, to realize some of these things and to watch the kids' faces when they realize like, oh, that person doesn't hate me. They just have a different communication style or whatever. Right. It's just beautiful.
And I think one of the things that could be really valuable for especially a high schooler is when you learn about what you're good at, you alternatively learn what you're not good at. And I think it's okay to teach our kids and ourselves. It's okay if we're not good at something. It's okay to name it. It's okay to say it. It's okay to work on it, but it's also okay to just know it. None of us are perfect at everything. And I feel like there's a lot of pressure when you're in high school at that age. Your brain structure is still kind of black and white, good, bad, right, wrong, right? And so to allow our kids the opportunity to be like, hey, there are things I'm good at and there's also things I'm not good at, and that's okay too.
Right. And that's a great point. And it's one of my goals is just to help kids realize that. Like there were things I never thought I was good at or never knew I was good at till I was like 40 years old. Yeah. And I'm like, my goodness, what could I have done? So to just help them realize, like this is your strength. This is your gift. Like, what can you do with that? And don't let anybody tell you that you don't have a gift or a strength.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's obvious that you're passionate about what you do, right? What is your favorite part of this role?
That's so hard. I have lots of favorite parts. One of my favorite things is when I help set up a job shadow for an individual student. Oftentimes I will take them to the job shadow during the school day. Yeah. And then I will go pick them and introduce them, and everything. Then usually I leave them there and then in good hands, and then go pick them up. And I love hearing the kids talk on the way back to the high school. It's so just cool. Like I could do that all day, every day. And sometimes it didn't go how they expected, which
that's
is
okay
fine.
too.
Yeah. And then I just really love being out in the community and just really, I grew up here. I've lived here all my life except for 1 year because I was born in the Philippines. My dad was in the Navy, but I just love being able, think how lucky am I that I get to be out and about in this community that I love and that I grew up in and, help connect kids and I really love that part too.
One of the things that I think is interesting, you mentioned being out in the community. You guys you've organized a mentor program within the school too, and have been out searching for business people to come into town or come into the school and have conversations with ninth graders. How did that start? Is it effective? What have you kind of like feedback have you gotten from the mentors and the kids?
Yeah, good question. My former boss said when people would ask him, what does Andrea do? He would say she just throws things against the wall to see if they'll stick.
I like where your head's at, Andrea. I could throw ideas at the wall all day long.
Right. So I'm like, hey. So Jason Olson, a social studies teacher there at the high school, he had a social communications class. He has a social communications class where he had a mentorship program. Mentors come in 3 times during that trimester. And we got such good feedback. He got good feedback, both from the mentors and the mentees and parents, that I kept just thinking, how can we make this bigger instead of just during his social communications class? So that's kind of where the idea came from. And then, like I said, every ninth grader has a careers class. So that seemed like a natural place to fit the mentorship in. And we've had really good comments. I just spoke with some mentors today, and they're like, I'm surprised how much I enjoyed it. Yeah. I came in to do this for the children, and I got so much out of it. And like 2 mentors today said, the kids with their questions reminded me of why I do what I do and why I love it.
I did it a few years ago, and it was awesome. And some of them, there's such a range of personalities, but but it was a really valuable experience.
Well, and the kids too, they're so nervous the first time, and they're like, what, you're going to put me in a room with someone I don't know, and I just have to sit there and stare at them and talk to them? But we have, activities and things so that, no, you do not need to, there's always an activity, but you can go rogue too if you want. But yeah, the kids, by the second time, they're like, what? They see me in the hallway. Miss Moore, when's my mentor coming again? Is that this Friday? Oh, and and they're coming back and they're excited and they're smiling. So yeah, and the goal is really just what you said, to get kids to interact with people in the community, whether it's practicing conversation and social skills, or just knowing that people. I've had kids say to me, do these mentors get paid to come here? And I'm like, no, honey. And they're like, well, then why do they come? And I'm like, why do you think they come? I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Because they care about you and they want to invest in the youth in this community. And they're like, really? Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
I can imagine that would be surprising to them. To me, it's second nature. Like if I have time on my calendar, I'm going to do it, because kids are cool. I think kids are awesome, and their success matters to all of us, right? Like we're all part of the same like weird little ecosystem. So if we don't all throw some good into it, we don't have a very good ecosystem.
Right.
So that's good for them to see.
Yeah, they there's people in their lives who are supposed to care about them, right? And who should show up and do. But then like people like the mentors come in, they have no obligation, I mean, and so it really touches them, and they really feel good about it.
I did a mentor last year, and we had to do it via Zoom because we were somewhat in and out of schools yet and stuff like that. And, I had one Zoom call with a girl, and it went fine, and you could tell she was just doing it from her phone. It was fine. And then I got to the next kid, and he had the full streaming setup and professional microphones, and I'm like,
I thought the two of you were going to go into business together.
I know. I'm sitting here on my side, and I got the big microphones too. I'm like, we went on a whole different tangent, and we answered some of the questions and talked about it, but we really went down a side road with it. What I thought was really cool after it was all done was I've run into him, I've run into his parents a couple of times out in the community, and to be able to go back and tell his dad, you got a really good kid. And sometimes hearing that from, somebody outside of your immediate family, it really kind of hits home a little bit better. So, it was fun. And I think if other people wanted to do it, how would they do that?
They should contact me. They could literally call the high school, 587-2151, and ask for Andrea Moore, or the person who does mentoring, or TigerPath, or whatever they remember from this conversation.
The TigerPath Coordinator.
That's right. There's just one for now. So they could definitely get a hold of me and ask more questions, even if they're not sure. Or they could email me, andrea.moore@isd423.org.
Yeah. And you guys have working at the school now too. You guys are we talked about this a little bit, but like trying to integrate other programs. I know one of the ones that you guys worked on last year was the CNA program.
Yes.
And working with providers out in the community about getting them experience to get that CNA in the school, which you used to have to get after you were out of high school or outside of the high school. So there's things that you guys are doing at the school that are trying to get kids prepared to do jobs right now too. And where they could walk out of high school and be like ready to go do something that would pay them more than minimum wage.
Right.
Which I think is neat.
Well, and it's fun because the kids really realize that too. And they, maybe they have sports after school, or they have a job or whatever, and maybe they can't go do their CNA training after school hours. So it really opens up a lot of opportunities for them. And, I think there's a need, right now. And so then again, we feel like, hopefully we're not just helping the students, but we're helping some of the, we're helping the community at large.
I think one of the coolest things as someone in the community, as a business runner, whatever you want to say that, right? As someone who employs people and who has been involved in different TigerPath things, one of the things I like the most about it is that every kid learns very differently. And there are some kids who learn very well by sitting in desks in a row, listening to lectures. And most of them don't.
Right.
And I think what's super cool about what you do is I've had students working at Woodstone who get school credit for it, and they get paid. I fill out a very short and easy evaluation, and a representative from the school comes in and observes the individual's work for like an hour. It is literally no extra work for me. doing the CNA class at school, taking welding at school. Like, what I love about it is we're giving these kids that normally would feel like failures in the old school way of teaching, we're giving them a way to feel like they are a success story, because not very many kids can just sit still for 8 hours, listen, learn, and succeed. And you're offering them all these opportunities to say to themselves, I'm good at something, I can succeed at something. And if we can give our youth anything in this world, that's it right there, that there's something that they're good at, and it doesn't have to look the same for everyone.
Right. And I think our teachers, too, are excellent at, trying to, recognizing that and really making sure their curriculum and what they need to teach and what they want to teach, is really trying to, inspire kids and reach different types of learners. And, so that so kids feel like they're there for a reason. They're in that class for a reason. And there's something they can take from it, that's going to help them in the future.
Yeah.
In the real world. It's not just like sit in this desk, learn this stuff, take this test, and then for a grade. I think our teachers are really good about, trying to help the kids understand the relevance and give them some meaningful lessons. So,
I've had great experiences with all the teachers in the school. One of the things, I made a post about it during Teacher Appreciation Week here. I think it was last week or the week before.
Yep.
And it was just like, those of the parents in the town, they see what the teachers are doing.
Yep.
They may not feel it all the time, because, as people who deal with other people, sometimes you always internalize the ones that aren't so happy with you. But those things are, you kind of have to internalize those and say, okay, whatever, I'll work on that. But I see parents just love the teachers in this school district. They love having their kids in this school district. I think this school district is one of the main highlights of Hutchinson and why you would move somebody to town.
Yeah, it's definitely a draw. I think people ask about that all the time. And we have, open enrollment. We have kids who come from other communities, and I graduated from here. All my 4 children did, and we're human. Teachers and educators are human. We're not perfect. But, what I see, and I'm in and out of classrooms a lot, is, teachers who really care. And they're, you wouldn't be a teacher, especially not today, if you really didn't care about kids and their success.
Just one amazing experience after another.
Yeah.
So
it's been very good. If there was, and we've talked a lot about a lot of things here, but if there was one piece of information that you could pass on to the kids that they don't really think about, one piece of advice as they're moving through, whether it's TigerPath or through school in general, what would you tell them? We've had some conversations about this the last couple of days, and I'll give you an example. When I went through school, I let 4 years of school dictate 20 years of my life. And we've talked about this on the podcast. I lived half my school life in Waseca School District. I lived half of it in Redwood Falls School District. Looking back, I can see how, as a kid, I couldn't see past my nose in a lot of things, right? So you understand what you're going through. And I had some really good teachers that were able to kind of work with me and say, hey, let's do this and this and this and get you on this path. That was awesome. Sometimes that happens for kids and sometimes it doesn't. But for me, I look back at it and say, I had, this small time period. Now looking back on it, I can see that 4 years isn't that long.
Right.
But when I was going through it at the moment, that was an eternity away.
Right.
And even though my mom was saying, it's only going to be 4 years, don't worry about it.
Right.
I was like, I could have stayed in Waseca and had all my friends, so I get that. Getting into a different school, just getting a brand new school out there like we have here in Hutchinson, was somewhat of a life changer too. So.
Yeah, I think something along that lines, high school is important and you should take advantage of opportunities and, do your best, obviously, but it's not everything. Yeah. And that life after high school for most people, I think, is quite different than high school.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, maybe you weren't popular in high school, but you find a strength afterwards, and now you're, you know,
You got
have a
friends all
ton of
over the place.
friends,
Yeah.
or, you know, or vice versa. Maybe you had a ton of friends in high school and you got out, and for some reason that didn't work out so well. I just think you're right. And I did the same thing. I thought, this is high school. This is how the rest of my life is going to be. You know, these people, these friends, these gifts, these opportunities. And that's so not true, I don't think, for very many people.
I feel like there's so many things as adults you wish you could tell them, and you can, and they're going to hear you say the words, but they're probably not going to really get it till they're older. But this concept of popularity I don't think it truly exists as an adult unless you put it in your world. You find friends, you find people that connect with you, you find how many work in your life, and that's what you've got. And nobody's counting, and nobody's keeping track, and nobody's popular or unpopular unless you're putting that on yourself.
Right.
Right? You work, you raise a family if that's your choice, if that's what you choose to do, and you've got 1 to 4 friends that you actually have time for. That's it. That's not a popularity contest.
Right,
That's just being a grown up. So it's you find your niche, and once you find it, the rest of the judgment about whether it's good, bad, or otherwise can just go away. But I know that's hard for high schoolers.
Right.
Sometimes.
And just to believe in themselves and the one, you know, find the things they're really good at and passionate about, and take that as far as they can take it. You know, and I know for some of them, you know, maybe they have to have a side gig, you know, and work this job while they're pursuing their career in music, hopefully, or, you know, something like that. But, you know, just to really follow their passions and not just work for the paycheck or you know, but to
that a bunch.
really do what they love and enjoy.
Yeah. So wrapping it up a little bit, Andrea, just something about yourself. What are you really looking forward to this summer?
I don't know. I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. Let's see. What day is it?
It might be Thursday, but I don't know.
My 7th grandchild will be born. It's scheduled for June 14th out in California. So really looking forward to that.
Are you gonna go out and
yes. Yep. And they have a little girl, so we get to hang out with her while, you know, mom's in the hospital.
And how old is she?
She is 3 and a half. She's excited. She's got our whole itinerary planned out. We're going to San Diego Zoo, and her friend Karen the orangutan, and, you know,
I like her already.
So really looking forward to that. We always do a family vacation with my side of the family and then all the kids, and it's just really nice that they make it a priority. You know, we did it when I was young, and, you know, with my brothers, and now it's like my nieces and nephews and my kids and my grandkids. Fun. So a lot of that. My niece is getting married. Yeah, lots of fun things.
You've got
I do know what's going on.
Look at you and your fun schedule.
I'm getting excited.
Then, so if summer comes, we can do all these things.
That's right.
Yeah, finally. Well, Andrew, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and coming to visit with us about TigerPath and all the fun things there is to know about the high school and school district here in Hutchinson, Minnesota. So thank you a lot for coming in.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was great to chat.
Yes.
As always, you can check us out on YouTube and Spotify and all the other streaming spots. Thanks again. And, you know, we've got a really great schedule coming up here now. We'll be meeting with Riversong and some of those people. So make sure you tune in. We're going to, back on track. So here we go. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.